Coffee Break Spanish, Program 56.
Buenos dias, how you do? We got something for you. A bit of Spanish you can try. It's not hard, now don't you cry. Más cerveza, por favor. Un cafecito, I want more. No haggis here, I hope that's fine. Just a bit of Espanol online. Espanol, you're in control. Just be resilient. One in Spanish is dead brilliant. Just be prepared. Mark and Kara will take you there. Now you're on a roll. It's Coffee Break Español.
Hola a todos.
Buenos días.
Aquí estamos con otro programa de Coffee Break Spanish. This is Coffee Break Spanish, the podcast which brings you language learning with your latte. And if you're joining us for the first time, having picked us up on iTunes, then you are very welcome indeed. This program will teach you Spanish. And yes, you've guessed it, we're from Scotland. But it's real Spanish we're teaching you. Don't worry about that.
This is program 56 and we're delighted to be here once again with you.
Me llamo Mark. My name is Mark and I'm the teacher for this course.
Y yo soy Cara. And I'm Cara and I'm the student.
Now this is program 56, as Cara said, and Coffee Break Spanish started right back at program 1 when we introduced the very basics of Spanish. If you've been following through until now, then you'll have picked up a huge amount of Spanish. If you haven't been following through, then you might like to visit our website on coffeebreakspanish.com and find out how you can get access for free to all the past episodes. Now, in recent episodes, we've been looking at the preterite tense, and in this show, we're going to try to round this off with more irregular verbs in the preterite.
We'll also be having a look at reflexive verbs in the preterite.
And we'll be tackling one of the grammar points mentioned briefly in the last lesson, which has in fact caused a huge number of emails.
So, let's get on with today's lesson.
And remember, if you're a complete beginner, then this will appear quite complicated to you. So make sure you head to the website to find out how to get the earlier content. Cara, ¿estás lista?
Claro que sí, Mark. Estoy lista para aprender español con Coffee Break Spanish.
Coffee Break Español.
Now, before we get into the new content for today's lesson, let's review some of what we covered last week. Cara, can you remember how to conjugate the verbs that we learned last week in the preterite tense?
Maybe.
Okay, let's begin with ir. The verb ir means?
To go.
And ir in the present starts with?
Voy.
Voy. Okay, so voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. You know that. Everyone knows that. But let's think about ir in the preterite. It changes somewhat, doesn't it? How would you say I went?
Fui.
Muy bien, fui. So if I went is fui, how would you say, for example, we went?
Fuimos.
Muy bien, fuimos. Now the other verbs that we looked at last week were hacer, ver, and dar. What does hacer mean?
To do.
To do, and there's another meaning of hacer. Sometimes means?
To make.
Yeah, hacer, to do or to make. And remember, obviously, if you're in Latin America, you wouldn't say hacer, but hacer. Now, what about ver?
To see.
To see, that's right. So, ver, to see, and we also looked at dar. Dar means?
To give.
To give. Now, we've also come across dar in a couple of idiomatic senses. Can you remember how to say, for example, to throw a party?
Dar una fiesta.
Dar una fiesta. So, putting this into the preterite, how would you say, I gave or I threw a party?
Di una fiesta.
Muy bien. You remember that dar becomes di in the preterite tense. Let's go through the whole of dar. We started with I gave,
Di.
you gave,
Diste.
he, she, or it gave.
Dio.
And that's also used for the usted form as well. Usted dio. We gave.
Dimos.
You gave. That's the plural form in Spain.
Disteis.
Disteis. Muy bien. And they gave.
Dieron.
Dieron. Muy bien. Now, they gave, the dieron form, is also used for ustedes, the plural polite form, or the plural form used throughout Latin America, dieron. So that was di, diste, dio, dimos, disteis, dieron. Let's look at hacer, and we'll use the Spanish pronunciation to begin with. So hacer in the preterite tense becomes I did,
Hice.
hice, muy bien. And then if hice is I did, how would you say you did?
Hiciste.
Hiciste, perfecto. Hiciste. And then this one was tricky, it was he did.
Hizo.
Hizo, that's right. So he did, she did, it did, and indeed usted did, you did, the polite form. Hizo, H-I-Z-O. And then the we did form?
Hicimos. Hicimos.
Hicimos, that's right. What's your stress? It's hicimos, hicimos.
Hicimos.
And you all, plural, informal, Spain form?
Hicéis.
Now, you sure about that? What's the form for the you informal singular?
Hiciste.
Yeah, so if it's hiciste in the tú form, what's the vosotros form?
Hicisteis.
Hicisteis, yeah, okay, hicisteis. And then finally, they did or they made?
Hicieron.
Hicieron. And of course, using Latin American pronunciation, that would be hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicisteis, hicieron.
Hice. Hiciste. Hizo. Hicimos. Hicisteis. Hicieron.
Perfecto. Now, you may be wondering, what about all these other verbs that we've covered in the present tense, which are irregular? I'm thinking about verbs like estar, ser, and perhaps tener. What about these in the preterite tense? Well, in actual fact, we're going to leave these just now because it's quite tricky to explain where and when these verbs are used in the preterite. If you think about the preterite as this narrative tense, I did something, I arrived, I reached the port, I jumped on board the ship, I set sail, and so on. It's slightly different when you say I was or I had, because that's not so much narrative, it's more describing. And when you're describing things in the past, you do use another tense, which we'll come to in a couple of weeks' time. So we're going to leave these verbs for the time being and look instead at a few other verbs. And the first group of verbs that we're going to look at are radical changing verbs. Now, can you remember an example of a radical changing verb, Cara?
How about pensar?
Pensar, perfecto. Now, pensar, what is the radical change involved in pensar?
The E changes to an IE.
Yeah, in the present tense, the E changes to an IE. So you have pienso, piensas, piensa, but pensamos, pensáis, piensan. Now, if we think about the preterite tense, now we're going back to our regular preterite tense endings, pensar is an AR verb. So what's the I form of pensar?
Pensé.
Pensé. And where, tell me, is the stress on that word?
On the last syllable?
Exactly, it's on the last syllable. So compare pienso and pensé.
The stress on the present tense is on the IE, and the stress when it's in the preterite is on the last syllable.
Exactly. So when the stress is not on that first syllable of the verb, in the case of the infinitive pensar, when the stress is not on that syllable, you don't need the radical change. Think of pienso, but pensamos. You don't say piensamos. You don't need to say piensamos because the stress is not on that first syllable. But pienso, piensas, piensa, the stress is on the first syllable. However, in the preterite, the first syllable is never stressed. Before we go through the whole of pensar, let's remind ourselves of the regular endings of the preterite tense of an AR verb. Cara, can you remember what they are? Just the endings.
E, aste, O, amos, estéis, Aaron.
Yeah, just watch amos, estéis, Aaron.
Amos, estéis, Aaron.
That's it, yeah. So, taking pensar, let's think through the verb. You would have I thought.
Pensé,
Yeah, you thought.
pensaste,
He, she, or it thought.
pensó,
Uh-huh. We thought.
pensamos,
You thought.
pensasteis,
They thought.
pensaron.
Okay, so first of all, let's consider, as a really good example, the he, she, or it thought. As a narrative tense in the past using the preterite.
Pensó,
Pensó. And compare that with the I think in the present tense form.
pienso,
Okay, so in the present tense we've got pienso, displaying the radical change, and in the preterite we've got pensó, not displaying the radical change, because the stressed syllable isn't the syllable that's going to change. Pensó,
pensó,
as opposed to pienso.
pienso.
So the bottom line here is that, in fact, when you're talking about a regular verb, in the preterite tense, you won't notice the radical change at all, because most of the time, certainly all of the time with regular verbs, the stress is not on the syllable that would otherwise have the radical change in it. Okay, while we're talking about other types of verbs, let's just mention reflexive verbs. And reflexive verbs are very straightforward in the preterite tense because, once again, you just use the reflexive pronoun and combine it with the conjugated verb in the preterite tense. Let's take levantarse. Levantarse means?
To get up.
To get up, that's right. Levantarse, to get up. So let's take levantarse in the preterite tense. We need the reflexive pronoun plus the conjugated verb. And of course, we've just gone through the AR endings. Aste o, amos, astes, Aaron. So, let's conjugate this. I got up would be?
Me levanté.
Muy bien, me levanté. So, you got up would be?
Te levantaste.
Te levantaste. And he, she, or it got up?
Se levó.
Now, I think you're maybe
Levantó.
getting mixed up with French there. Se levantó.
Se levantó.
Se levantó.
Se levantó.
Se levantó.
Se levantó.
Okay, remember, because it's levanto in the present tense, me levanto, but se levantó.
Se levantó.
Ajá. Nos levantamos.
Nos levantamos.
That's the same as the present, okay? It's the same as the present tense. Nos levantamos. Os levantasteis.
Os levantasteis.
Se levantaron.
Se levantaron.
Se levantaron.
Se levantaron.
Bueno, Cara, ¿a qué hora te levantaste hoy?
Me levanté a las 8.
¿Te levantaste a las 8?
Sí.
¡Qué suerte! Yo me levanté a las 6.
Oh.
Watch that there. Did you hear how I gave my own time that I got up there? I said, yo me levanté a las 6. I was putting in the yo there. I didn't need to put in the yo, but I put it in for extra stress. Cara se levantó a las 8 y yo me levanté a las 6. And the yo is in there for stress. Okay, let's take this a little further and let's look at another verb, another reflexive verb in the preterite. Let's look at ducharse. Ducharse means?
To shower.
Yeah, to shower, to have a shower. So, ducharse becomes in a conjugated form, me duché.
Me duché.
Te duchaste,
Te duchaste.
se duchó.
Se duchó.
Nos duchamos,
Nos duchamos.
os duchasteis,
Os duchasteis.
se ducharon.
Se ducharon.
Entonces, Cara, ¿a qué hora te duchaste esta mañana?
Me duché a las 8:30.
Okay, now just double check the stress there. How do you say I showered myself?
Me duché.
Me duché. Me duché a las 8:30.
Me duché a las 8:30.
¿A qué hora saliste de la casa?
Salí a las 10:30.
A las 10:30, ¿vale?
Sí.
¿Y a qué hora llegaste a la universidad?
Llegué a la universidad a las 11:30.
Muy bien. Okay, this llegar is a fantastic example because we get to talk about geeky Spanish spelling things, okay? Now, llegar in the present tense would be a standard regular verb, yeah?
Yeah.
Llego, llegas, llega, llegamos, llegáis, llegan. Let's think about the preterite. We've got the normal endings of the preterite. Aste, o, amos, estéis, aron. Okay, so that's the normal AR endings in the preterite tense. Let's think of llegar, and let's think of how you would say I arrived.
Llegué.
Llegué. Now, think of how you would spell that. LLEG is the root of the verb, yeah, if you take the R off the infinitive.
Yeah.
And then you add an E acute.
Yep.
So you've got LLEGE acute, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you know about G followed by E in Spanish? Think of the word, for example, the word for general.
You'd have to make it a sound.
Yeah, so the word for general is general. You would have to say llegué. However, that sounds very strange. Nobody would ever say, I arrived by saying llegué. That sounds really strange. You have to say llegué. So to make the G into a hard G sound, even though it's got to be followed by the E, you add in a U. It's a silent U, so it becomes llegué.
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 Okay. So that's just one of those little spelling changes that happens because of the use of the E in the preterite tense. Llegué, llegaste, llegó, llegamos, llegasteis, llegaron.
So there's only a U in the first person.
Exactly right. Okay. I've just thought of another example of this. How do you say to play in Spanish?
Jugar.
Jugar. So to say I played at football, you would say
Jugué.
jugué al fútbol. And what would happen to the jugué?
You would need a UE.
Exactly. You would spell that Jugue acute. Jugué.
Jugué.
But the U is silent in there. Well, the second U, the first U obviously has to be pronounced, but the second U is silent. Jugué.
Jugué.
Jugué al fútbol.
Jugué al fútbol.
Okay. Now, there are these spelling changes that do come up from time to time. I'm thinking as well of verbs that end in car, C-A-R. For example, tocar, tocar un instrumento, tocar el piano, tocar la guitarra. And in this case, the spelling change is from tocar with a C in the infinitive to a Q-U in the preterite. So it becomes toqué, T-O-Q-U-E acute. Toqué. The other parts stay the same. So try toqué.
Toqué.
Toqué, tocaste, tocó, tocamos, tocasteis, tocaron.
Toqué, tocaste, tocó, tocamos, tocasteis, tocaron.
Okay, that was just to see if you were still awake, Cara. And I know that all this grammar can get kind of complicated and maybe a little tedious, but hopefully it's useful to everyone. Now, we're going to be doing next week some little tests on all this preterite stuff because, yeah, afraid so. We're going to do some more of our personality quizzes and you're going to be guessing who the personality is. And for that, we're going to need two verbs. And that is nacer,
Nacer.
or nacer in Latin American Spanish. And that means to be born. And morir.
Morir.
Morir is the opposite of to be born.
To die.
To die, yeah. And if we're talking about someone else, we would say nació.
Nació.
he was born or she was born. And how would you say I was born?
Nací.
Nací. Nací or nací. Nací en 1972. When was I born, Cara?
19...
Yeah, I'm glad you got that bit right.
What was the second part?
1972.
1972.
1972. So nací, and then to talk about someone else, nació. To talk about someone else dying, you would say murió.
Murió.
And although it's not likely ever to be used, you might be interested to know that to say I died, you would say morí.
Morí.
Okay, so it's not muri, but morí.
Morí.
Okay, doke. We're going to get back to that next time with more personality quizzes, and you'll need to recognize nació and murió for the personality quizzes. But in the meantime, we're going to cover one more thing before finishing off today, and that is indirect object pronouns. Last week, I mentioned to say to give something to him or to her, we use the word le. Le.
Le.
So, for example, le di un regalo.
I gave her or him a present.
I gave her or him a present. And in Spanish, you have to say I gave to her or to him a present because the le means to her or to him. Now, we've come across this before, and I think what people didn't realize last week was that it's exactly the same as me gusta. Okay, because me means to me, gusta is pleasing, me gusta la música. To me is pleasing the music. I like music. Me gusta la música.
Me gusta la música.
Cara, how do you say, do you like music?
¿Te gusta la música?
Te gusta la música. Exactly. So the verb doesn't change in this situation because we're saying to you is pleasing the music. Te gusta la música.
¿Te gusta la música?
Equally, I can say, te di un regalo.
Gracias.
I gave to you a present. Te di un regalo.
Te di un regalo.
Me diste un regalo.
Me diste un regalo.
To me, you gave a present. And so, coming to him or to her, which we've already looked at, le di un regalo, I gave to him or to her a present. And equally, when we're saying he or she likes, to him or to her is pleasing. Le gusta.
Le gusta.
Okay, so it's this le that's to him or to her. If we want to say to us, we use the word nos.
Nos.
So that's to us is pleasing. Nos gusta la música.
Nos gusta la música.
Or, in the dar example, you gave us a present. Nos diste un regalo.
Nos diste un regalo.
Nos diste un regalo.
Nos diste un regalo.
Okay? The you plural in Spain form would be os.
Os.
So, we gave you a present. To you, we gave a present. Os dimos un regalo.
Os dimos un regalo.
And comparing that with the gustar, to you is pleasing music. Os gusta la música.
Os gusta la música.
Okay, so we've got nos, os, and then to them is les.
Les.
So to them is pleasing music.
Les gusta la música.
Les gusta la música. And to them we gave a present.
Les dimos un regalo.
Les dimos un regalo. So all of your indirect object pronouns are me, te, le, nos, os, les.
Me, te, le, nos, os, les.
Muy bien. We will be coming across more pronouns as we work our way through these lessons, and don't worry too much about these. It's the most important thing is that you recognise them when you hear them and work out what they mean from the context around them.
Coffee break Espanol!
So there you have it, another long episode of Coffee Break Spanish.
Remember, we're always interested in your feedback, so please do post your reviews on Podcast Alley, iTunes, and on our blog.
So we're going to leave it there for this week. Don't forget though, if you are new to Coffee Break Spanish, then you can go back and get all the previous shows right back to lesson 1. Find out more about how you can get even more from our show by visiting our website at www.coffeebreakspanish.com.
Gracias y adiós.
Como siempre, muchas gracias por haber descargado este podcast. Hasta la próxima.
Coffee break Espanol!
This podcast was brought to you by the Radiolingua Network. Find out more at www.radiolingua.com.